night he rang, our lives have changed. Some for better, some for worse. Yet nothing has been the same since the night we were inspected.
How long's this clock been in the family, Mr. Burling?
Oh, only a year, Gerald. You know what Sybil's like, the pressure buying. I suppose you're going to have to get used to that soon. Pass us the port, Eric. You ought to like this port, Gerald. As a matter of fact, Finchley told me it's exactly the same port your father gets from him.
Then it'll be all right then. The governor prides himself on being a good judge of port. I myself don't pretend to know much about it.
I should jolly well think not, Gerald. I hate to know about port like one of these purple-faced old men.
Here, I'm not a purple-faced old man.
No, not yet, Father, but then you don't know about port, do you?
Now then, Sybil, you must take a little tonight, eh?
Yes, Mum, you must drink to our health.
Very well. Just a little, thank you.
Well, this is very nice indeed. A good dinner too, Sybil. Tell cook from me.
Absolutely first class.
Arthur, you're not supposed to say such things.
No, come on, treating Gerald like one of the family. I'm sure he won't object.
Go on, Gerald, just to object.
Wouldn't dream of it. In fact, I insist on being considered part of the family. I've been trying enough, haven't I? Haven't I? Oh, you know I have.
Of course she does.
Yes, except for all last summer when you never came near me. I wonder what happened to you.
And I've told you, I was awfully busy at the works all that time.
Yes, that's what you say.
Now, Sheila, don't tease him. When you're married, you'll realise that men with more important work to do sometimes have to spend nearly all their time and energy on their business. You'll have to get used to that, just as I have.
I don't believe I will, so you be careful.
Oh, I will. I will.
I wouldn't choose work over any woman. You don't get any pleasure out of work.
Oh, really, Eric, I've had quite enough.
Gerald, your glass of port's run dry. Let me top you up.
Don't get too carried away, Father.
Oh, be quiet, Sheila. Expensive port's got to be drunk, otherwise it's a waste of money.
Here. I'll help you out, Father.
Yes, Sheila, will you have one too? We will drink to our engagement.
Yes, Gerald. Yes, Sheila, darling. Our congratulations and very best wishes.
Now what's the joke?
I don't know, I just felt like I had to laugh.
You're squiffy.
I'm not.
What an expression, Sheila, really. The things you girls pick up these days.
If you think that's the best you can do.
Don't be an ass, Eric.
Now stop it, you two. Arthur, what about this famous toast of yours?
Thank you, Sybil. There have been few times in my life when I've been as happy as I am now. One of them, of course, was when I was made Lord Mayor 2 years ago. But as I am now perched on the edge of serving His Majesty in the best way I possibly can, as one of his chosen knights, I turn to my son, Eric, my greatest possession. Soon to take the family business, but not before Crofts and Burlings are as one, eh? Hold on a few years yet, my boy. Sheila, my beautiful daughter, as bright and radiant as your mother was when she became engaged to me, the soon-to-be Sir Arthur Burling. Gerald, look after her. I'm giving her to you in the utmost confidence, and I'll be proud to call you my son. And on that note, let us raise our glasses to the Burlings.
To the Burlings.
Good evening. The Burlings, I presume. I'm sorry to disturb your evening, but I'd like some information. 2 hours ago, a young woman died in the infirmary. She'd been taken there this afternoon because she'd swallowed a lot of strong disinfectant. She was in great agony. They did everything they could, but she died. Suicide, of course. All of you here had some involvement with Eva Smith, or Daisy Renton as she sometimes called herself. I've been round to the room she had, and I've read a letter she left there, and a sort of diary. You all knew her. Mr. Burling, Eva Smith worked at your factory. You sacked her.
That's outrageous. You can't seriously blame me for what happened. Just because this girl let herself go downhill after she got the sack is hardly my fault, is it? Am I to be criticised for doing my job? Any businessman would have done the same. Look, you can't come in here and upset my family in my home and start spouting all this nonsense. I will say this for the last time. Me and my family are not to blame for the death of this girl.
Mrs. Burling, you could have helped this destitute young woman, but you chose not to.
I have a clear conscience. She lied to me, to the organisation, and the truth simply wasn't clear enough. I didn't like her manner. She called herself Mrs. Burling. Simply a piece of gross impertinence. The story she told at first about a husband who deserted her was quite false. I have a duty to society to keep, and I kept it. And in spite of what's happened to this girl since, I consider I did my duty. So I prefer not to discuss it any further, as no one has the power to make me change my mind.
Gerald, you had an affair with Daisy Renton and then casually dropped her.
It was March last year. She looked young and charming. She saw me looking at her. A glance was nothing less than a cry for help. I gave her a place to stay. She had no money, no job. I suppose it was inevitable. She was young and pretty and intensely grateful. I immediately became the most important person in her life. It was over shortly after it began. I don't feel guilty though. I made her happy. I don't come into this suicide business.
Sheila, Eva then found a job at Millward's department store. You ensured she lost it.
Eva Smith. Millwards. I got in to try something on. It didn't suit me at all. I looked silly in the thing. Well, this girl had brought the dress up from the workroom. She had held the dress up to her as if she were wearing it. And it suited her. She was the right type for it, just as I was the wrong. She was a pretty girl too. That didn't help much. I caught this girl smiling at me as if to say, doesn't she look awful? I was furious. I went to the manager and told him that this girl had been very rude and impertinent. I feel so guilty. I didn't think. I didn't know the consequences then.
And Eric, you made her pregnant and stole money from your father's office.
One night last November in the Palace Bar, I saw her. We began talking and I bought her a drink. We were rather far gone by the time we had to go. I went back to her lodgings and then one thing led to another. And, oh God, I can't even remember the hellish thing. About a fortnight afterwards, I saw her again. I couldn't remember her name or where she lived. It was all very vague. But I happened to see her in the Palace Bar. The next time I saw her, or the time after, she told me she was going to have a baby. She wasn't sure at first, but then she was. I was in a hell of a state. I insisted on giving her money to keep her going, until she refused to take any more.
Terrible. Drinking disinfectant. Horrible death.
So do you remember Eva Smith?
Yes, I do. She was one of my employees and I discharged her.
Is that why she committed suicide? When was this?
Just keep quiet, Eric, and don't get excited. This girl left us nearly 2 years ago. Let me see. It must have been in the early summer of 1910. Look, there's nothing suspicious about this business. It was a good while ago. Obviously, it has nothing to do with her suicide.
But can't you see? What happened to them may have determined what happened to her afterwards. And what happened to her afterwards may have driven her to suicide. A chain of events.
Well, I see what you mean. Still, I can't accept any responsibility. If we were all responsible for everything that happened to everybody we'd had anything to do with, it would be very awkward, wouldn't it?
Yes, but can't you see the link? It's clear. Being sacked must have had a dreadful effect on her. Where could she go? What could she do?
You clearly don't understand business. She was a good worker. She was going to be a leading operator, but then the girl started demanding more money. Eva Smith was behind it, so I refused.
Why did you refuse?
She was a troublemaker. She had to go. Any businessman would have done the same. It's my duty to keep labour costs down. If I'd agreed, we've added 12% to our labour costs, so I refused. Does that satisfy you? We were paying the going rate, and I said she could work elsewhere if she wanted to. It's a free country.
It isn't if you can't go and work somewhere else.
You just keep out of this. You've already shown how little you understand. The death of this girl has quite simply nothing to do with me. Do you hear?
When did you first get to know this girl, Eva Smith?
I didn't.
Daisy Winton, then it's the same thing.
Why should I have known
Oh,
her?
don't be stupid. We haven't much time. You gave yourself away as soon as you mentioned her other name.
All right, I knew her. Let's leave it at that.
We can't leave it at that.
Now listen. Sheila.
No, that's no use. You not only knew her, but you knew her very well. Otherwise, you wouldn't be looking so guilty about it. When did you first get to know her? Was it after she left Millwoods? When she changed her name, as he said, and began to lead a very different sort of life? You were seeing her last summer. During that time, you hardly came near me. And you said you were so busy. Were you? Yes, of course you were.
I'm sorry, Sheila, but it was all I've been done with last summer. I haven't set eyes on that girl for at least 6 months. I don't come into this suicide business.
I want to know, Gerald. We're supposed to be engaged. I want to know.
It was at one of the bars in the theatre. You know, where the hard-eyed, dough-faced women in the town gather. The show was dull. I wasn't planning to stay long. But then I noticed a girl who looked different. She was pretty. Soft brown hair, big dark eyes. My God.
What?
So he just sunk in. She's dead.
And probably between us, we killed her. Then what happened?
We talked. She told me about herself. She lost a couple of jobs, no parents. She did say she was desperately hard up.
So you gave her money, kept as your mistress. No wonder you had no time to see me last summer. You're another.
It's hard to say. I didn't feel about her as she felt about me.
Of course not. You were the wonderful fairy prince. You must have adored it, Gerald.
All right. I did for a time. Nearly any man would have done.
At least that's honest. Did you see her every night?
No. We were very busy. Though we did see a lot of each other.
When did this affair end?
I can tell you exactly. It was the first week of September. I was going away on business. It was coming to an end, so I broke it off definitely before I left.
How did she take it?
She was very gallant about it.
That was nice for you.
No, it wasn't. She told me she'd been happier than she'd ever been before. But that she didn't think it'd last. Hadn't expected it to last. She didn't blame me at all. I wish to God she had now. Maybe I'd feel a bit better about it. So where does this leave us?
I don't know, Gerald. I don't know. So you saw this girl, Eva Smith, only 2 weeks ago?
She appealed to an organisation for help.
Yes, but not as Eva Smith or as Daisy Renton. First, she called herself Mrs. Burling. Simply a piece of gross impertinence and quite deliberate. That was naturally one of the things that prejudiced me against her case.
So you admit to being prejudiced against her?
She just died a horrible death.
And I'm very sorry, but I think she only had herself to blame.
So it's because of your influence the committee refused to help this girl?
Well, yes, it was. I didn't like her manner. She used our name with no right. She pretended it happened to be the first she thought of. I got the truth out of her. Or some of it, anyway. Her story about her husband deserting her was quite false.
Why did she want help?
Look, she was pregnant. I know you're upset about this thing, but I've done nothing I'm ashamed of. The girl asked for assistance. I wasn't satisfied by the girl's claim. She seemed not to be a good case. and I used my influence to have it refused. And in spite of what's happened to the girl since, I consider I did my duty. So I prefer not to discuss it any further if you don't mind.
Mother, you're hiding something. There's something more. I just know it.
Gerald, glad you're back. Where have you been?
Get the poor man a drink, Sheila.
No one's dead. There hasn't been a death in the infirmary for weeks. At least not by drinking disinfectant.
Are you sure, Gerald?
I'm certain. I saw some sergeant I knew down the road. I asked about this Inspector Gould. He said there was no one on the force called Inspector Gould.
You didn't tell him.
No. I passed it off and said I was having an argument with someone down the road. But the fact is, there is no Inspector Gould on the force.
Well, I must say, Gerald, I'm very grateful. What a clever idea. You should be proud, Sheila.
But you're forgetting one thing I still can't forget. Everything he said had happened really happened. If it didn't aim tragedy, then that's lucky for us. But it might have done.
But the whole thing's different now. Come, you can see that, can't you?
I want to get out of this. It frightens me the way you talk.
Oh, nonsense. You'll have a good laugh over it yet. Look, you better ask Gerald for that ring you gave back to him, hadn't you? Then you'll feel better.
You're pretending that nothing has really happened at all.
I'm not.
No, but these others are.
We've been had, that's all.
So nothing really happened. So there's nothing to be sorry for, nothing to learn. You can all go on behaving just as we did.
Well, why shouldn't we?
I tell you, whoever that inspector was, it was anything but a joke. You began to learn something then, and now you stopped. You're ready to go on in the same old way.
And you're not?
No. Because I remember what he said, how he made me feel. Fire, blood, and anguish. And it frightens me the way you talk. And I can't listen to any more of it.
And I agree with Eric, it frightens me too.
Well, go to bed then and don't stand there being hysterical.
They're overtired. In the morning, they'll be as amused as we are.
Everything's all right now, Sheila. What about this ring?
No, not yet. It's too soon. I must think.
Now, Sheila, I think you have thought enough. The important fact is that the fellow was a fraud and we've been hoaxed. We're not in the wrong, we've just been had, that's all.
You're pretending that everything's just as it was before, and I just can't see it like that.
No one is dead, Sheila. We're not to blame.
Not to blame, we are all to blame, Mother.
But really, Sheila, since you can't discuss this matter quietly and sensibly, the matter is closed. Look at what we have achieved. Your father has deserved his knighthood and has built his business up from the ground. You can't just blow all that away. Zeva Smith didn't count for much anyway. You and I didn't know her personally, so I don't see what all the fuss is about. Gerald is a good man, Sheila, and he loves you. Don't tell me you're too blind to see that.
Now look at the pair of them. The famous younger generation who think they know it all and they can't even take a joke.
Why don't you look at yourself for a change? Why, you're nothing but a pathetic old has-been. You call yourself a father? You're a murderer. We're all murderers.
What did you call me?
Sheila, I'm so sorry.
No. No.
Gerald?
Crofts and Burlings?